let's talk Monday Night Raw. I have to give my hats off. We'll give them a lot of criticism in the last few months. They're doing okay. Last week on Monday Night Raw, it was good. They've been consistently good on SmackDown for the last few months. I think they're starting to finally get into their WrestleMania bag just a bit. It might be a bit too late, though. I think you've already lost quite a few people in the process. But opening up the show regardless, we had Brock Lesnar coming out with Paul Heyman. And Paul Heyman cut a generational promo. Well, I say generational. He cut an amazing promo. He did the classic Paul Heyman promo. And he reminded everyone of what Brock Lesnar's about, what Brock Lesnar achieved. He said, hey, Brock Lesnar was the one who beat The Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania. And here we are 12 years later, because the crowd booed that. Here we are 12 years later, and it still hurts everyone else. Everyone thought they could stop Brock Lesnar. It wasn't Braun Strowman. It wasn't John Cena. It wasn't Roman. Well, I mean, Roman Reigns did, so I don't think they said that. But he mentioned Dean Ambrose, and the whole crowd erupted because, holy shit, he's not been called Dean Ambrose in a long time. Like, obviously, he's John Moxley, and even when they've mentioned him in WWE since he's left, they've called him John Moxley. No one's called him Dean Ambrose since he was Dean Ambrose, which is mental. So yeah, that got a bit of a cheap pop, and then once he hit the mic drop, Femi came out again, and I thought, oh God, here we go again. Oba's going to do something. Oh, is this time Brock going to do something? And it's when Oba got in the ring, Brock attempted to do something because he wasn't going to have what happened last week. He attempted to hit Oba with an F5. Oba countered it, sent him flying over the ropes, and Brock was forced to retreat. And Paul Heyman was in his ear telling him to retreat, But I think with Brock appearing next week and for another 4 weeks before Mania, I think Brock's going to repeatedly try and prove himself and get one over on Femi and just convince himself that he's still that guy and convince himself that Femi isn't going to absolutely batter him again. So that's going to be pretty interesting. Already they've made an interesting feud, and it was as simple as making a match everyone wants happen. It was as simple as that. It needs no build-up. The hype is there because people are like, I want to see this. So guess what they did? They give them it. It was that simple. Who would have thought? Who would have thought it was genuinely that simple? Then the opening match of the night was the Usos versus The Vision. I was surprised. I thought that could have potentially main evented. But, as we know, Monday Night Raw, the main event is always a segment. Yeah, the match was all right. I mean, Jay obviously works better as a member of a tag team. And obviously Logan Paul, Austin Theory tried their shenanigans, tried to get the Brass Knuckles involved. And LA Knight was there to save the day. Passed the Brass Knuckles to Jey Uso. Jey Uso blatantly in front of the referee. Hit Austin Theory with the Brass Knuckles, got themselves DQ'd. And then they went back and hit Logan Paul with them. Jey Uso was taking no prisoners. He was on a warpath, as Jimmy called it, throughout the night. Just purely not having on the bullshit. And thanks to the Vision winning by disqualification, they now get a title match next week on Monday Night Raw. But let's continue down the path of Jey Uso. Jey Uso's been mad. He's been mad since CM Punk said that thing about his family and tried to get him to apologise. And it just shows he's playing the character very well. I think Jey Uso works better like this. Jey Uso works better as a guy who's raging, as a member of a group. This is where Jey Uso thrives. This is prime Jey Uso. It's where he thrives. Hence why he hit them both with brass knuckles with no regard. Hence why Jimmy warned CM Punk before going out to that ring, be careful what you say because Jay's on a warpath. And why Jey Uso made his way out there when CM Punk said what he said. And CM Punk addressed how Roman Reigns called him old. And he says, that didn't piss me off because of what he said. It pissed me off because of who said it. My youngin had the disrespect to call me old. And CM Punk's referring to Roman Reigns as a youngin because CM Punk claims to have picked the Shield to be the next guys up. Some of them have a couple of things to argue about that. I don't really know the ins and outs, but I'm going to back Roman just because he's my guy. But I have to give it to CM Punk, even though I've been a critic of CM Punk before. And I'm backing Roman Reigns, and I'm with Roman Reigns on this. CM Punk is not prime CM Punk anymore. If you think CM Punk is in his prime, you're wrong. He was in his prime in 2012 and 2011, and them years there where he was the GOAT. I'm with Roman on this, but hats off to CM Punk tonight. He delivered a good promo. He portrayed his character well. He did well at, and I hate to use the word, but rage baiting and getting those emotions out of Jimmy and Jay, because the Usos did make their way out, and he was getting in their head, and he was proving his point. And it's when Jay said, Roman isn't here, but I am. When Roman Reigns actually showed up, and CM Punk got what he wanted, because the Usos were out there, and so was Roman, and now he's got a picture painted that the bloodline's back together, and Roman needs his cousins, and Roman's never there unless his cousins are there. So Roman, to prove a point, when he got in the ring, politely told Jimmy, and he said, I mean this with no disrespect, but get your line, get out my ring. And they tried to do that. Jay wasn't having it. He wasn't done with Punk. And it's when Punk opened his mouth that Jay just went for him, and Punk was ready and decked Jay. Jimmy tried to get involved and try to separate them, and Roman just took a shot. Roman took down CM Punk, and it was when they were trying to get the Usos out there and Roman was going to leave. Jay, with all his anger, reminded Roman of who he is. He said, get him, Roman. Don't let him disrespect us. Jay, in his anger, has went back to the old bloodline ways. Jimmy's protecting him because Jimmy doesn't want it to happen. And Roman's just, with all the things CM Punk said, with trying to get in his head, even though Roman tried to get in Punk's head last week and proved that maybe he's not the best on the mic, CM Punk's in Roman Reigns' head now because it's all clicked, and Jay kicking off has brought Roman Reigns back to old ways, and he started brutalizing CM Punk, and he had that look in his eye, and he was walking around like he was the tribal chief again. And I've got to be honest, as much as I was concerned for the OG bloodline returning, because it's an old recycled gimmick now, and it might just like ruin the momentum that Jimmy and Jay could have had, I'm actually quite excited for it, because do you know what, like, it would be cool to have Roman Reigns just be dominant on his own as a babyface, but maybe bringing the bloodline back is just the great storytelling we need. Maybe it is. And he brutalized CM Punk. Like, he slammed his face in the post, proper powerbombed him through the announce desk, punched him all over the face. I mean, the aggression was there, and it was beautiful. It was not because it's CM Punk getting beaten up, but it was beautiful because it shows the emotion. It shows CM Punk actually got in their heads, and it actually hypes this match up so much more. I'm so glad they didn't just go for a fourth promo battle, because they've had like 3 promo battles now. So I'm glad they went this way. And could we see Roman Reigns going into WrestleMania as a heel? I think so. I'm concerned for the result of the match, because I really don't want to see CM Punk retain. Just because of the fact that I think it's much more interesting to have Roman Reigns be the World Heavyweight Champion, but I can see them maybe potentially having CM Punk retain, so Roman can go down this bloodline-ish story with Jimmy and Jay. Maybe it's against them, or maybe it's with them, we don't know, but there's a lot more story potential for Roman. Another good reason maybe to put the title on him. But yeah, it's interesting, and it's cool, and I'm actually so here for it, because that was amazing. It was chef's kiss. Let's get into some other matches in the night, though. We did have Bayley and Lyra Valkyria against the Kabuki Warriors. They've had a couple of backstage run-ins now, and both women want shots at the tag team titles. Bayley and Lyra obviously got the win. They're going to get a match against Nia Jax and Lyra Valkyria next week at Madison Square Garden. Obviously, I think the Irresistible Forces are going to retain them. We're probably going to get a big multi-woman tag team match at Mania involving the Irresistible Forces, involving Charlexa, involving the Bella Twins, and Bayley and Lyra, and maybe even the Kabuki Warriors. God knows, because they're not in a rush to make any WrestleMania matches confirmed. But they did confirm one, and that was AJ Lee and Becky Lynch, because Becky Lynch came back after she returned last week to beat up AJ Lee after a match. She came back and she reminded everyone of who she was. And again, this is why I say Becky Lynch is the GOAT. Not necessarily for her in-ring work. Becky Lynch can be great in the ring when she wants to be. There's a couple of times when, like, you're looking at her in the ring and you go, nah, right? But as a character and on the mic and what she does to hype up a feud, hype up a title that had no relevance, that's why Becky Lynch is the GOAT. That promo she cut is why Becky Lynch is the greatest, right? And I'm not even going to try and recite the promos, because I don't want to get it wrong and take away from it. It was a great promo. And that's when AJ Lee made her way down, kind of charging down because she wanted to scrap Becky after last week. Becky left the ring. I'm glad they did, because I'm bored when they just show up and scrap every week. It makes no sense. Like, you're going to spend a whole week apart and then you see each other once and just start scrapping again for weeks. Like, it's just stupid, right? And when she backtracked in the audience, AJ cut a bit of her promo, and she said, maybe I just need to finish you off once and for all at WrestleMania. And that's the match we're going to get at WrestleMania. Is there going to be a stipulation? They haven't announced one. I hope there is, because it's just another one-on-one match. Don't know. But I'm excited. Even if AJ does retain, Becky's getting spotlight she deserves, because she did make that title relevant, let's be honest. She did make that title, so it's deserved. We actually had I Show Speed at Monday Night Raw, God knows why. Showed up, shook hands with Penta, shook hands with Dragon Lee, met Dragon Lee, said, "Oh, you're a dragon, I'm a dog," and just cringe. And then met Danhausen, who cursed Speed, and Adam Pearce just kind of like left once Danhausen cursed Speed. God knows what he's there for, but I can only think it's a WrestleMania match. Now, I'm all for that Logan Paul is well established as a wrestler now. I'm all for Jelly Roll because Jelly Roll gets it. And I know Offset was here a couple of weeks ago, and maybe it's fine every now and then to have a one night off, but let's not make it a thing that at WrestleMania we're just going to get ridiculous amounts of celebrities involved. Because I Show Speed, while he's athletic and he could get a lot of decent eyes on the sport, I just think we've already got Jelly Roll. Is Speed really, because looking at his acting there, he wasn't great, is Speed really going to get this business like people like Jelly Roll do? I don't know. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. He wouldn't just randomly show up in Boston. Is he even from Boston? He wouldn't just randomly show up in Boston on a Monday Night Raw and backstage seconds for nothing. He's obviously going to get involved with WrestleMania. God knows who it's going to be against. Dare I say, he joins Javon Evans against Kofi Kingston, Grayson Waller, or joins Javon Evans and Offset against the whole entire New Day if Xavier Woods gets back. But Javon Evans actually just had a match against Grayson Waller because Kofi's been trying to recruit Javon, and it's been getting between Grayson and Kofi. So Javon had a match against Grayson, a very good match as well, and Javon obviously got the win. Javon's an over, man. He's just, the guy's incredible in the ring, and he deserves everything he's going to get. And he did have an interview with Byron where he mentioned potential IC title for Javon Evans, and Javon's like, any title would be good. So I don't know what's the plan for Mania, if there is one, for Penta and the IC title, but I think Javon Evans should be involved. Whether it's a one-on-one match, whether it's a six-man ladder match, and we'll have, like, Javon, we'll have the El Grandes, we'll have Dragon Lee, because he did promise Dragon Lee another shot at some point. God knows, but I'm excited, because the match quality we've been getting around the Raw mid-card is just, it's on fire, including Penta's Intercontinental title match this week, which was the rematch against Dominic Mysterio. And as he was making his way out, Stephanie Vaquer tried to take out Liv, who started fighting back. Dom tried to separate them. She chinned Dom. They went backstage, and they were proper scrapping. Like, it was a good scrap. Like, they went backstage, threw each other off walls brutally. There was no fake bullshit. This was a fucking scrap, and I loved it. It was a great scrap. Then we got into the match, and JD tried to get involved. That's when Finn came out to take out JD. We had the most obvious, like, finish where Dom just faked the fucking frog splash, and Penta put his knees up and rolled him up. I wish he actually committed to the frog splash and got the knees, but whatever. Penta obviously retained, and Penta's going to continue to defend that Intercontinental title. And to be honest, I wasn't a fan of how they put the title on Penta out of nowhere, but I kind of dig it now because he's doing a lot more with the IC title than Dom was. Let's be real. And the feud between Dom and Finn is good enough anyway. And he eventually hit a coup de grace on JD by the end of the night while Dom ran up in the crowd somewhere. I just can't wait for this match. I can't wait for Finn to get a win at Mania. They've not announced that match yet for Mania, I don't think, but I'm so here for that match. It's such a good match. Is there anything else for me to talk about before I talk about the Paul Heyman situation, which I think is actually what I just need to talk about. Let's just get into it, right? Paul Heyman. So obviously he's already had Brock Lesnar get beaten up by Oba Femi. Then immediately after I get Austin Theory and Logan Paul, even though they won, they got DQ'd by getting hit in the face with brass knuckles. So he went up to Adam Pearce, being all respectful because he's got no energy for him. He's sick of him by now, right? He requested that Logan and Austin, due to getting disqualified, get tag team title match next week, Madison Square Garden, in a New York Street fight. I kind of feel like this is the WrestleMania match, but maybe they got the plans for Mania, and he's got it. So they're going to get that match next week, and I'm just curious what the plan is for Mania now. And because if that tag team title match is happening next week, Jay's kicking off for CM Punk, LA Knight's struggling to get along with them, I'm just starting to think maybe they have other plans at Mania for the Usos, and maybe it might involve LA Knight, maybe it might involve CM Punk, I doubt it, but, you know, maybe the Vision are going to take those tag team titles next week. And are the Vision going to face Seth Rollins? Who's going to face Seth Rollins? And I'm starting to think it's Paul Heyman, because when Paul Heyman tried to leave after requesting that tag team title match, Adam Pearce said, no, you booked the ring, go to the ring. And he went to the ring to cut a promo on Seth Rollins and kind of said, Braun's not coming back, Bronson's not coming back, Brock Lesnar's already left out of anger. Logan Paul and Austin Theory are half conscious. Seth, maybe it's time we did this man-to-man. And Paul Heyman was talking like he was about to scrap Seth Rollins. He says, we all know I'm not going to beat him in a physical battle, so I'm not going to have a match with him at WrestleMania. I'm not going to have a match with him, but maybe just come out here and we'll settle a man-to-man. It sounded like Paul Heyman wanted to scrap Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins came out, but he was hesitant because he just thought, hang on, what does Paul Heyman have in mind here? And that's when he got close, and some police came. And Paul was laughing. Obviously, it was a setup. Paul Heyman earlier on the week had, and they could have told the story a bit better, but Paul Heyman had got a restraining order earlier on in the week, which meant that once Seth Rollins was by the ring, he was within 50 feet and he was about to get arrested. So he was getting escorted out there. As he was getting escorted out there, Paul Heyman, and we'd already heard a lot of stuff throughout that night. We heard AJ Lee banging on Becky about her daughter being her favourite wrestler. We already heard we hadn't heard Jey Uso yet, but like CM Punk, Jey Uso both dropped an S word. But like the diabolical shit Paul Heyman was saying to Seth Rollins as he was getting escorted out by police is mental. He said he was going to get put in a prison cell and then his wife's going to leave him. That's bad enough. Then he went, your wife is then going to get married to half the locker room, basically saying because she's a divorcee, she's going to shag half the locker room. That's mental. And then he went, and your daughter is not going to have a dad around, so I'm going to adopt your daughter, which is fucking mental. And before he could even finish his sentence, Seth is storming the ring. Because imagine saying that shit. That's mental. You're going to be rotting in a prison cell. Your wife's going to leave you, shag half the locker room, and I'm going to take your daughter. Mental. Seth just stormed that ring, fucked the restraining order, decked him right in the face, got handcuffs, escorted out, arrested, everything. We don't know what's going to happen with Seth. We don't know if he's going to be back for Mania. Maybe this is their plan to keep him out of Mania. But if you ask me, Brock's doing a match with Oba. Braun and Bronson are injured. I think the better plan is to maybe, and it seems like a goofy match, but when there's no other option, I think the best option is to have Seth freaking Rollins against Paul Heyman at WrestleMania. I don't think Logan Paul or Austin Theory is the right idea. I just don't think it's exciting enough. I don't think people care enough, especially if they're going after the tag team titles. I think the much more interesting thing to do would be put Seth against Paul Heyman. And yes, Paul Heyman can't defend himself, but you think in the vision and Braun and Brock aren't going to try and like help him win. Like obviously they are. It would just be so much more interesting storyline wise to actually see that happen. Do you know what I mean? So that's the direction I think this should go down. But that's just my opinions. Let me know your opinions in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.